morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we're talking about something that I never thought we would actually get to talk about. I did not think I would ever see the day that we actually saw Infernape in a winning tournament deck. I thought there was a chance when the Chandelier from Unbroken Bonds came around, which put Stage 2 Pokemon, as long as they were fire, directly from your deck onto your bench without having to evolve. I thought that might be the thing that saved it, but no. And we even had two different versions. We had a fighting version and we had a fire version just in case we didn't have enough from one version. And it never worked. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I am rather delighted to say we've actually got a winning Infernape deck. It's with Cinderace, and I, for one, am rather excited. Now, if we quickly remind ourselves what Infernape does, Infernape is not an attacker. That is not the point of Infernape. Infernape has an ability that says that your opponent's burned Pokemon takes 6 damage counters between turns for burn, rather than the usual 2. General rule of burn, you take 6 damage counters, flip a coin. If heads, they are not burned anymore, but you've still taken the 2 damage counters. But what Infernape does is it goes, well, actually, mate, how about you take 6 damage counters for burn between turns, and then flip a coin. Sounds like fun. Now, the attack is 2 energy, 50 damage plus burn. If they're taking 6 damage counters for burn, which they are, it's fine in an emergency, but I wouldn't get terribly excited. As a side note here, we're playing the fire version because it attacks for fire energy. The fighting version, you need fighting energy. You don't want to play fighting energy, so you're playing the fire version. It really is as simple as that. But the reason this is good and relevant and coming around nowadays, the reason why we can finally get to talk about it, is because of Cinderace V, mostly Cinderace V Max. We like Cinderace V Max. We've covered this, I'll pop a link in the description. Cinderace V Max is a great deck that's seeing a fair amount of play and love and success. It is one of the best decks in the game at the moment. Now, Cinderace V, free retreat if there's a stadium in play, free energy 140, it's fine. Don't forget that as a fire deck we can use Welder, and Welder plus the attachment for our turn means that we can actually pay this in a single attachment, essentially. So that's quite nice. But it's not the reason we're playing. We're playing it for Cinderace V Max. That's what we love. Cinderace V Max has a rather phenomenal attack whereby you get to do a base damage of 30 plus as much damage as was done to you during your opponent's last turn. Not as much damage as is on you, as much as was done to you. So this deck plays Hyper Potion, and you can use Hyper Potion here and you still get to do extra damage even though you healed 120. You can heal and still do the extra damage. That is phenomenal. The thing is, the worry with Cinderace is your opponent is going to go, well, I'm not going to hit you for a decent attack. I'm going to chip away until I'm ready to get a big KO. And that massively limits Cinderace's output. So what you do is you use Flame Ball Max. 170 damage for free energy. Remember Welder. Plus burn. See where we're going with this? Because 170 damage plus burn is fine. It's 170, 2 damage counters for burn, 190, that's a decent amount of damage. But if we add the 6 damage counters for burn, now we're up to 230. Except it's not really 230. It's 230 if they either flip heads, so they're out of burn, or they get out the active. Otherwise, they take another 6 damage after their turn, and all of a sudden that's 290, and they take the burn damage even if Cinderace goes down. And this is very, very different at this stage. Now they're taking a ridiculous amount of damage that goes up regularly. And I am going to have to spoil the surprise of one of the trainers here. I like to keep them separate where we can, but we've got to mention Weller Volcano Park. That's a really nice stadium that came out in Dragon Majesty, Whenever a player flips a coin for the special condition burned between turns, that special condition isn't removed even if the result is heads. If your opponent flips heads on burn, they're still burned. Yeah, that's kind of phenomenal. So now they've got to get out the active, or else they're taking 230 now, plus 60 after their turn, plus potentially 60 at least after yours, not including any damage that you do. And that's why you play Infernape with Cinderace here. You still want to use that giant attack of counter, but now you don't really care if your opponent hits you or not. If they hit you, brilliant counter. If they don't hit you, Flame Ball Max does a lot of damage, and life is good. But make no mistake about it, Infernape is here for the ability. Now, in terms of other Pokemon, it's pure consistency. This is a Cinderace Infernape deck. You're not playing any other attackers or support, except for Jirachi and Dedenne. Jirachi, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, put it in your hand, go to sleep, and then get out the active. And then we've got Dedenne here, whereby you play it from your hand onto your bench, discard your hand, draw 6 cards. It's fairly standard. We see Dedenne in a lot of decks. And Dedenne and Jirachi here are for consistency. They're here to get you going. Now, in terms of trainer cards, there are some fire tricks that we need to be playing. We do play Weller Volcano Park, as previously mentioned, but we also play Giant Half. Discard a card from your hand, search your deck for 2 fire energy. And that goes very well with the Welder that we mentioned earlier, that lets you attach 2 fire energy from your hand and draw 3 cards. We then see Fire Crystal that gets 2 fire energy from your discard pile into your hand, and this is very much a fire deck that takes advantage of fire tricks. Like, for instance, Burning Scarf. Burning Scarf is a fun one, ladies and gentlemen. You see, Burning Scarf, you attach it to a fire Pokemon, and if that Pokemon is damaged by an attack from your opponent attacking, they're burned. And what this means is that even if you're not using your attack that burns them, they're still getting burned. Think about this, right? They hit you, they become burned. If you've got Infernape, they take 6 damage counters after their turn before you've even attacked them. You then use counter to do as much damage as they just did to you plus 30, and then they take 6 damage counters from burn. The combination of Infernape and Burning Scarf and counter really is harsh. They hit you, and you then do as much as they did, plus 30, plus treble burn. Cannot be the only one that thinks that sounds mean. Now, you are playing a stage 2 here, so rare candy becomes pretty gosh darned important. You are playing majority basic Pokemon here, so Quick Ball becomes pretty gosh darned important. And we are playing Pokemon Communication to go and get your evolved Pokemon out. The reason we're playing Pokemon Communication rather than something like Evolution Incense is extremely simple. We need the early game Jirachi and Dedenne. We would rather take the risk of hitting a Pokemon Communication when we didn't have a Pokemon in hand than knowing that if we hit an Evolution Incense, we're not getting our support Pokemon. Our support Pokemon are basic, so we've got to go Pokemon Communication here. It's pretty gosh darned important. Now, I mentioned Hyper Potion earlier, but I do want to give a shout out to that one here. I love this card. You heal 120, but you've got to discard 2 energy. But you're playing Welder, so you can just reattach those 2 energy, and Fire Crystal gets them back at the discard. And then, of course, you're playing counter, so you're doing the extra damage for the damage you took, but you're healing with Hyper Potion as well. That's pretty awesome. Outside of that, it's fairly standard. Professor's Research is a really good draw supporter. Discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Expect to see it basically everywhere. Kind of amazing. Reset Stamp, if your opponent takes a bit of a lead, you get to put them down to a hand size equal to their remaining prizes. I mean, you could do it if they've got 6 cards left, but you want to really stick to when they've got low hand size. Cynthia and Caitlin gets your supporters back while drawing 3 cards. It pops up in every deck. It's pretty gosh darn good. We're playing a bunch of Switch here. Switch is kind of good because of the whole Jirachi thing. You need to get it in and out of the active. That's fairly important. And Pokégear allows you to search out, well, not search out strictly, but get those supporter cards a bit more reliably. And I know it doesn't look like there are any escape board in this deck, but those 2 cards behind Reset Stamp are escape board, lets you reduce your retreat cost by 1 and retreat if you're asleep or paralysed. It's clearly there for Jirachi. We had to have a skateboard, didn't we? You can't play Jirachi without a skateboard. That would be weird. This is a weird deck. I had genuinely given up on seeing Infernape do well. But when you combine the fact that you've got Cinderace here, whose attack, when you've not been hit, really needs to burn, and you've got Burning Scarf as well, that's pretty gosh darn good, ladies and gentlemen. That's pretty gosh darn good. But at this stage, I'd like to know what you think about this. So, let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but we love them anyway. Like the new Digimon game, that looks really good. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.